He's got probably about 1,000 different pictures that he's been given from people all over the world. But a lot of them I look at and I say, yeah, that might be lens glare. I don't know what that is. But a few of them in particular that he showed, a couple of them that I'm thinking of in specific, and I'll pull these up here in a moment if I can find them. They were like, it was in Italy, and it was just this giant red circular mass. And it almost looks like, okay, well, is that the sun, but somebody used some type of filtering software to make it look like that big giant red mass? But it sounds to me like Nibiru, possibly.
Right. I know the individual you're referring to, and he is a superb investigator with an excellent reputation and track record. So I would guess that, as you say, most of his photographs are quite genuine. And I think we've had the best photographs since about 2010, 2011. We've had superb photographs and videos in 2015. It's getting larger. I think a fellow named
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, these pictures, David, I'm telling you, that it takes up half the sky in that particular area of the picture. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yes, there was a series of still photographs taken between, I believe, 2011 and 2014 by a certain analyst who had access to a webcam at the top of a volcano in Central America. Perhaps it was Costa Rica. And I looked at an analysis of that those still photos, and if you look at the field of view and if you state the pixel size at each year, 2010, 2011 up through 2014, in the same field of view, it gets amazingly larger. So obviously, in my opinion, the object is approaching us quite quickly.
You're saying that you think it's right now in between Jupiter and Mars.
Right, absolutely. And I believe, getting to one of the main points of my book for just a moment, not only is there a lot of scientific evidence, and again, you look at the circumstantial evidence, you look at these deep underground bunkers and the missing money and all of these things that don't make any sense unless you use a philosophical principle called Occam's razor. The simplest solution is the most reasonable and is the one you should use. Now, getting back for just 1 second, maybe I can even talk a little bit about the John's very apparent description in Revelation 12. It's a very precise celestial event that he talks about. Now, I talked about one particular object, but I didn't really talk too much about what's called the Revelation 12 sign. And in the Revelation chapter 12, if you read the first 4 verses, you'll notice those are very specific visual descriptions that are not referenced again. And it's interesting to note that to an observer on Earth, they will not be able to see this formation. On September 23rd, 2017, you won't be able to see it because the sun's brightness will clothe the entire constellation during the day, and the moon will, I think, only be illuminated about 11%. So it's a pure, specific astronomical indication. And if you look at Revelation 12, 1 and 3, the word wonder or sign is used to describe what John saw. Now, in the Greek, this has the idea of an indication. So it appears that they are based on literal visual events that the author of the Apocalypse, John, saw in the heavens or the sky as an indication of what was going on in the larger scheme of things. Now, that date itself is what I call a time marker or a key to a cryptogram. It is not the final key, in my opinion. It's only a preliminary key. That's not the date, in my opinion, when you're going to see Planet X in the sky. You're going to see it at the last possible minute, and I believe I know at least the month, but maybe not the week, but I do know the month when that will most likely probably occur. And again, the analysis comes from Revelation chapter 12. And the September 23rd celestial sign of the woman in the constellation Virgo, as I mentioned, has never happened before and will never happen again. Jupiter has to move in several directions in retrograde and so forth for a period of about 400 days in a part of that constellation to fulfill that exact astronomical requirement. And that, in conjunction with the 12 stars at the top of the woman's head and the moon at her feet and the sun and so forth, these things do not occur in exact sequence except in the month of September of 2017. So again, I would call that some sort of cryptographic key that we need to proceed from. Now, remember this, the blue daytime sky is going to hide Planet X until it eclipses the sun. But there is going to be a full disk solar eclipse right after September 23rd, 2017. This occurs, if you look at moon charts, on October 5th, 2017. And what happens, of course, during a full disk solar eclipse is the sky turns black, and that will reveal at that point, that week, in my opinion, the week of October 5th to 12th, if the book of Revelation is true, because this ties in perfectly with it, that could well be the exact month that we can first see it with the naked eye. So, in my opinion, combined with a predictive computer-generated astronomical model, the Bible, the book of Revelation, the Apocalypse, tells us that the red dragon, or Planet X, or Nibiru, appears after September 23rd, 17, but it has to appear before October 11th, 2017. At that date, October 11th, 2017, the sign in Virgo, the woman Virgo, will no longer be, quote, pregnant. Then the red dragon, or Planet X, therefore must make it an appearance before October 11th. So that seems to be a cutoff date. Jupiter, which is known as the planet or the star of the Messiah, exits Virgo, the Virgin, on October 11th after having spent, I believe, 301 days or about 42 weeks in the, quote, womb region of that constellation. And again, after that point, the woman will no longer be pregnant. So that gives us a very narrow window, just to use the book of Revelation or the Apocalypse as sort of an intel briefing. And the great sign of the woman is described in Revelation 12, 1-2, forms and lasts for a few hours. And according, again, to astronomical models, this sign has never before occurred in human history. It will occur once on September 23rd, 27. It will never occur again. And I believe it places us right at the time frame from that analysis of the Planet X approach to the Earth. So I believe this is something very interesting that's covered in a lot of detail in the book. And I believe, though, if I'm not mistaken, the individual you just referenced, Bob, I believe he also believes that 2017 is highly likely.
You know, that's what he said in the interview. And, he also correlated a lot of revelations and stuff. And it sounds to me like you've definitely done your homework. Are you a religious person?
Well, I would say yes.
Okay.
And but I never really studied the book of Revelation.
Okay.
Until a few years ago, until I got into Planet X. First of all, it didn't make any sense to me. I've glanced at it once or twice, but it didn't seem to solve, as you would say in cryptography. So it made no sense until I started relating it to this particular object and correlating what the Bible calls the red dragon with also what it's called wormwood. These are all terms referring to Planet X or Nibiru. They're all the same thing. The Vatican calls it wormwood. Revelation calls it the red dragon. Revelation chapter 8 again calls it wormwood. But these terms are interchangeable. So obviously this is a major astronomical sign that's going to have some very high impact value at a certain point in our history. The Earth has been around many thousands of years, and everything's gone okay so far. And the end is not necessarily going to occur, but things are certainly going to change, and there's going to be major cataclysms. And the Earth is actually very cataclysmic in its nature. Only 500,000 years ago, there was a pole shift. 6 million years ago, there was a pole shift. 6 million years ago, understand, the state of Alaska was near the equator, what we now know as the equator. So the 65 million years ago, as you know, there was a major asteroid collision near Mexico, and scientists say, well, that wiped out the dinosaurs because it caused ash to cover the sky and it destroyed plant and animal life. So we really live in a very cataclysmic universe. And the interesting thing about these asteroids, that Planet X has a tail anywhere from 250,000 miles to several million miles long, and the dust of that planet is red iron oxide, but the tail, especially as it passes through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, picks up a lot of asteroids, some large, some small, some kilometers in diameter. And these items, the U.S. and the world actually has nothing at all to protect against an asteroid collision. You can't shoot a nuclear weapon at it because all it would do is break it up into more pieces and you'd have more targets hitting the same area. There's no early warning system. There's no way really to protect against this.
Yeah, I mean, you'd almost have to find a way to send something that could move it, hook up some thruster system to it and have it blast off the opposite direction because obviously inertia, yeah, you shoot a missile at it and then it's just going to be a million other pieces that are going to fire onto the Earth. So, very
right,
interesting.
And that they haven't discovered that yet to my knowledge. They're probably working on it and they might have it 50 years, but I don't think they have it yet.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Who knows what they have. So how far before you think, do you think in 2017 it's going to be chaos on Earth? Do you think that it's basically going to be blowing up, earthquakes 10 times more than they are now? What's going to happen a year from now?
Right. Well, at that point, I would prepare. Now, here's something very strange. I would prepare on or before the fall of 2017. I would conduct emergency preparedness. Of course, you want to be spiritually ready. You want to have a clear conscience and all that, but you need to do physical preparations as well. I think survival gear, emergency food, that sort of thing. And the reason is, and again, all this while, you're going to get increasing levels of disinformation from the mass media until it's actually there. And then they're going to say, whoops, we didn't have any notice. We don't know what happened, and so forth. And they're going to run and hide in what they've already established. But, the public is there and the public has to fend for itself. This global warming, as you've heard, I'm sure, is a cover story. The Earth is heating up from the core outward because of the approach of Planet X. During the 20th century, I think there were 35 volcanic eruptions in a typical year. Now there are more than 35 of these every single day. So basically, when X approaches, that week you see it in the sky, let's say it's October of 2017, for purposes of discussion. At that point, it's not going to actually collide, I don't believe, with the Earth. The Earth is only 8,000 miles in diameter. It may pass 5, 10, 15 million miles away, but it has a very high magnetic attraction. It's going to have a gravitronic effect. It's going to cause the shifting of the Earth's crust. It's going to cause major volcanic activity. It's going to cause tidal waves. And when a pole shift happens, the ocean literally comes up out of its basin. So you're going to have major weather changes, seismic activity, and volcanic eruptions. Probably at that point, Yellowstone, the Yellowstone super caldera, will likely erupt. That could affect up to a third of the United States, cover it with ash. Right now you've got unexplained sinkholes, bizarre weather. So we've seen these core changes, and of course the cover story, the legend that we're given by Al Gore and those types is global warming. Well, of course that's just a total story, and it makes absolutely no logical or deductive sense.
Well, let me jump in here for a second. I'm glad you brought that up because you can clearly tell a difference now with how hot the sun is. Even if you look at the same temperature, 75 degrees now versus 75 degrees 10 years ago, although it's the same temperature, the sun on your skin even, there's just more heat there. It's almost like the atmosphere has become depleted. It's thinner now, so more of that radiation is actually hitting your skin. And I've got proof of that because I have a radiation detector built into my watch. It's a high-end military-grade watch. You can pick one up at MTM Special Ops, and everywhere I go, I can see what the radiation levels are. And just over the past 3 years, they've literally doubled in my area out here in San Antonio, Texas. So it's very interesting. I'm wondering if the chemtrails might have something to do with that. But the sun also seems more extreme now. So, what is your thoughts on that?
Good points. Very good points. Let me comment on the EMP, and let me comment on the sun. First of all, actually, if you go to the book of Revelation, the Revelation indicates that the sun is going to be hotter at that time frame. Now, the EMP effect, Planet X has a massive tail. It's fantastically charged. It's magnetic. The tail has moons and rocks in it. Now, this can down aircraft and satellite when it passes. It can affect the electrical grid. Now, of course, NASA, JPL, and the other disinformation sources ignore this data. But